evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's genealogy class. Our topic is using MyHeritage to research your ancestors. Putting a link to the handout in the chat in case you didn't get a chance to download it earlier. Before we get going, we have a few things to take care of. First of all, we acknowledge that the Boston Public Library's Central Library stands on land that was once a water-based ecosystem, providing sustenance for the indigenous Massachusetts people, and is a place which has long served as a site. All right, hold on. Is anyone else having trouble hearing me? Let's see. Okay. So if you are having trouble, you might need to turn your speakers up on your computer or wherever you're watching this. Okay, so let's see. All right, so we are committed to land acknowledgements for all locations at which we operate. We reaffirm this commitment to set the context for our planning, deliberations, and public engagement will take place from the spirit of welcome and respect, found in our motto, free to all. So some of you have already discovered the chat box is open. If you would like to say hi and tell us where you're joining us from, please feel free but not obligated to. However, we do have some ground rules for the chat box. All chat messages during the presentation and the Q&A period should be related to the topic of the presentation. This includes all questions, comments, and any resources you may want to share. Please, I also ask that you please be respectful of me and all the other attendees. And I will do my best to make sure that I get to everyone's questions during the Q&A period. However, if I don't get to your question before the program ends, you can contact us at ask@bpl.org afterwards. And we'll also have more contact information later on. Further note, this program is being recorded, and this recording will eventually be uploaded to the BPL's YouTube channel. So you'll be able to catch it there. I will also be sending a link to everyone who has registered for this program once that it is ready. Everyone will also be getting a follow-up email from me tomorrow that will have a link to the handout, to my slides, and also to the chat transcript. So if you miss something, don't worry. We'll make sure that you get it. So for those of you who don't know me, you might be new here. My name is Jessie Wheeler. I'm the genealogy specialist here at the Boston Public Library, and I work in the Research Services Department. I see we got a lot of folks from Massachusetts. That is great. Okay. All right, so if you do have any trouble hearing me, or if you have any trouble seeing anything on my slides, please let me know and I will do what I can to fix it for you. Okay, so today, as I said, our topic is the database MyHeritage. We're going to go over what MyHeritage is, how to get into it, but primarily we're going to be looking at how to search MyHeritage because it is a little tricky, and that's why we're doing this tonight. I got a couple of requests for it, and we're going to just do an overview of some of the collections they have in there. All right, so what is MyHeritage? It is, like a lot of other resources, a searchable collection of genealogy databases that has digitized historical documents, photos, newspapers, and a bunch of other things. It is also now currently the only genealogy database that you can access from home through the BPL. We used to have a different database called Heritage Quest that could be used from home. However, it was, we had to cut it due to budget cuts this year. So we don't have that anymore. So that's why we're looking into this one tonight. So folks who want to do their research from home can use this. Again, because we are in Boston and Massachusetts, I will be focusing on just how you can access it through the BPL. If you are not in Massachusetts, you can check with your local library to see whether or not they might have it. And they also offer individual subscriptions if that's something that you're interested in. So there's two different ways you can get into this from our website. So we're going to go the long way first. Let's see if I can. There we go. Okay, so first of all, you would go to our website, which is bpl.org. Then in this red navigation bar up at the top here, see where it says Learning and Research. You click on that. And the first menu option here is Online Resources. Click on that. Then you're going to scroll down. You'd say you want to click on this button here that you want to browse by subject. Click on that. And over here on the left, you'll see a listing of subject headings. You want to click on Biography and Genealogy. And then if you scroll all the way down, it is the second to last option on the page. So that's the long way to get there. And once you do get there, you would click on this. When you're doing it from home, it will prompt you for your library card number and your PIN. So you can either have a physical card with a BPL or one of our e-cards. So that's the long way. So the short way, you again start at our website, bpl.org. And again, you click on Learning and Research in this red navigation bar up here. Well, this time you're going to go down a little bit and click on where it says Genealogy. And this will take you to our genealogy webpage. And you scroll down here, and you just click on this picture where it says MyHeritage Library Edition. So that's fewer steps. It depends on how you want to do it. You can also, once you are able to navigate there, you can bookmark any page here. I just wouldn't recommend bookmarking this page directly because it is a little wonky. And you will see why shortly. But again, when you click on it from here, from your home, you're going to be prompted to enter your library card number or your PIN. It's not going to show that here because I'm in the library. You can also access this from any BPL location. Doesn't have to be the central library. Any of the BPL branches you can access this from. All right. So we're going to talk through these steps first, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like. So you would want to click on the exact search box at the bottom of the search page, and we'll show you why you want to do that. I will also warn you, keyword searching does not always work. That's particularly important if you're trying to look for newspaper articles. Also, if you do know a location, it sometimes will work better, especially if it's a place in the United States, to put in city, county, state, and country. If you know that information, you will be able to find some things just by putting in the city. It's a little trickier with county and state. Also, you're going to see why in a minute. You want to select match required, place must match. So we're going to take a look at that. Okay. So once you're logged in, once you log in, the first page you're going to see is this one. I'm not quite sure why it does that. So you just want to click where it says MyHeritage Library Edition, and then it will bring you to the main search page here. So let's say I want to search for one of my ancestors here. His name was Charles Herman. And he lived in Providence in Rhode Island. So I'm going to at least put in Providence. So down here at the bottom, I'm going to show you why you want to do this. This box marked exact search right now is not checked. With translations, that's a relatively new thing. I haven't explored it too much, but there aren't a ton of translations in here. And if you're looking for records in a language you understand, you really don't need to worry about this. So we're going to ignore that for now. So we have here Charles Herman in Providence. So we don't have this box checked. So let's click on search. You can see up here, we have over 120,000 results. So this is looking for all Charles, all Hermans, and everything for Providence. So let's go back. And if we click on exact search, we only get 32 results. So it's much less things to go through. So let's try clicking on this one here. So this will be the main page you'll get. when you just do a general search. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we can make the page bigger, certainly. We just need to remember how to do that. There we go. All right. Oops. Okay, that is not what I meant to do. Okay. All right, I don't think I meant to do that. I'm sorry, I'm still getting the hang of this laptop, folks. I apologize. Okay. Don't know why it did that. Okay. Don't. All right. Oh, this is embarrassing. I hate it when this happens. Okay. Okay, so sorry, I'm gonna have to just look up real quick how to get it out of this screen. Okay, Windows. Okay. There we go. Sorry about that. So let's get back here and I will do what I meant to do. All right, so I'm just going to do it from up here. I'll get in less trouble that way, hopefully. All right. There we are. That's much better. Okay. So getting back to Charles Herman. So this will be the main result page that comes up when you just use the general search page. So again, this is search method 1. Okay. Okay, thank you, Michael. So I'm on a Windows, so that's why I had to look it up. If I were on my Mac at home, I wouldn't have had a problem. We have Windows over here, but thank you. Okay, so let's get back over here. Alrighty, so over here on the left, you'll see the different categories of records that they found. So these are all the different collections that they found records in. So as we said, so we did an exact search, so that means it's only going to look for the spelling that way. I can tell you from personal experience, having researched this family for a while, there are at least 4 different ways that they all spelled Herman. Lately, these days, it's standardized to 1 R and 1 N. I've seen it 2 R's, 1 N, 1 R, 2 N's, 2 N, all the different variations with the R's and the N's. If you did want to look for all the different variations, we're going to go back and edit our search. And under here where the last name is, instead of match name exactly, we're going to do match similar names. So instead of, and again, we want to do exact search. And we still get 32. Looks like we did that work. Okay, so okay. So I guess we do need to uncheck that box. All right, so we're going to go back. I forgot about that part. So we're going to go back. Since we are looking specifically, since we are doing that, but we're leaving this the same. So we want the Charleses. And if you are doing that, if you do have a location, there we go. So you want to do match required place must match. So otherwise, it's going to look up all the Charles Hermans that are not in Providence. So here we get more results. We get 139. If we look through down here, eventually we'll start seeing Herman spelled a few different ways. Right now we're looking at the 2 R, 2 N's was really popular in the 19th century. There we go. So now we have 1 R, 1 N. Got a lot of 1 R. And now we have Harmon that will also show up. And then we have 1 R, 2 N's. So there you go. So if you have a last name that has a bunch of different spelling variations, that can be pretty handy. All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Okay. So let's say you see something on the left-hand side that you want to look at. So let's say you're curious, you want to see what it says under schools and universities. So you would click on that one. I'll show you the results here. I'm pretty sure I'm not related to this person, but we'll click on this guy anyway. So we'll click on the name there. So this particular collection was from the school collection. So this is from yearbooks. So it'll show you a scan of the page. And so this is from Classical High School in Providence, Rhode Island, yearbook year 1928. And then you can scroll here and look at the original image. Then down here, if you're fortunate, there might be other things in the collection. So for this particular school, they also have a few other yearbooks. So if you wanted to look at different years, you could click on that. You can also page through and look at different, the preceding and different pages in the volume. So you'll be able to get a good look at what exactly is in this document. That one. Okay, so if you wanted to go back, look at all collections, click on all collections up there. Let's say you wanted to look at newspapers, click on newspapers. And you can, and then, so it looks like, so this one is newspaper name index. This covers USA, Canada, and Australia. Sometimes you'll see, and hopefully we're going to look at this in depth later, you'll have more collections to pick from. So this one is not there. So this, let's see. So this is someone from Springfield. Let's check this one out. And luckily, they actually are helpful. They will highlight where your results are, so you can zoom in and see what exactly it is. So this poor fellow was involved in a bad incident in Florida. Again, I'm not related to this person. Charles Sumner was a fairly common name back then. So, okay. Now, let's say you wanted to save this document, like you're really interested. This is your guy. So what you're going to do, over here on the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a white box that has 2 black lines at the corners. So you click on that, and that'll take you to full screen. Reason why you want to do that, if you were to print it, if you clicked on print in the other screen, it'll just print the index information. It won't print the actual document. So you need to go into full screen in order to print or save the document. So if you want to print it or save it, you click on, it's a little hard to see, but there's a printer icon up here in gray that's next to this big orange button. So you click on the printer icon. If you just wanted to save the image, you would click here. If you're set up with Windows, click Save for this PDF. I'm pretty sure you can do that on a Mac as well, but if you did want to print it, you just click where your printer is networked to, and then you're all set. This shows you a preview of the document here. So unfortunately, you can't do a clipping of the page like you can with some other databases. You can it'll just download the whole page for you, but then you can work with it once you have it downloaded there. All right, and then when you're done with that, you'd want to click on Exit Full Screen, and it'll take you back to this. Like I said, if you did try to print or save from here, all you would get is this. It wouldn't save the image for you. I'm not quite sure why it's set up like that, but that's how it's. All right, so this was search method 1. So this is searching all the collections at once. So this is useful if you just want to get a good general overview of what exactly is in there for the person that you're searching for. But if there's a specific collection that you want to look at, then there's search method 2, which you'd search each collection one at a time, or just if there's only one specific thing, you would do that. So we're going to show you that. Okay, so let's start over. So we're going to click back up here. If you ever want to just start over, just click where it says MyHeritage. It'll bring you back to the beginning screen. Okay, so let's see. So let's say if you're looking for a birth record for someone. So you want to click on birth, marriage, and death. Okay, so let's say I want to look for my grandfather, my great-grandfather rather. So let's see, his name's Frederick Wheeler. And again, Wheeler doesn't have quite as many spelling variations, so we're just going to do match name exactly. And let's see, so he was born in Stockton. So I'm just going to see, let's say I don't know where exactly in Berkshire County he was born, so I'm just going to put Berkshire County, Massachusetts. And then again, down here, I want to do exact search. So I'm going to click on search. Oh, and now we're not getting any results. So now what we can do, we can go back here. I thought it was in there, but I guess not. Okay, so let's just try. So you got to fiddle. See, this is why we're doing this, because the search function is a little fiddly. So it might need to just take information out. So let's just try Berkshire County. And still no results. Okay, so that might mean that they don't have it here, but so this is the same is true with other genealogy databases. If you don't find what you're looking for in here first, they might upload it eventually. So now let's just say I'm curious what records they do have for Wheelers from Berkshire County. Results. Okay. Let's just try Berkshire. This is what I mean. Their geographic index is very weird. There we go. Okay, so now we're coming up with Berkshire, England, because there is a Berkshire County in England. It might be distantly related to some of these folks here. And this also will show you they have a lot of things from outside the US, so they have a really strong collection for England in here. This is not what we're looking for, so let's just try. All right, so let's try the Hermans again. Again, we're going to do match similar names because they want to try to find all the Hermans. So I have a lot of relatives named William Herman. So let's do, and I know they were from Cranston. So let's try that and see what we come up with. Right, we got to keep that unchecked. There we go, and now we get New Jersey. So over here, so there's another way you can limit it, rather if you don't feel like trying to figure out where, how they have the geographic location in there, you can click over here where it says refine your search by and click birthplace. So we're going to click where it says Cranston there, and there's good old William Harmon, who again, I'm pretty sure we're not related to. I'm not related to, but let's just take a look at it. So this will show you. Once again, you'll get a brief transcription here, and then they'll have an image of the record. Now, the ones for Rhode Island I thought were pretty cool because it's a color image for one thing, so you can actually see the different line colors. A lot of records like this is just a black and white image, so this is pretty cool. That's why I picked Rhode Island finally. See, we have to find him. The other thing, and this is true for any kind of research that you do, trying to decipher the handwriting. So you gotta work on that. This one actually isn't that bad. I've seen much worse. So here we go. So that'll have his name. It'll have gender and race as they considered them at the time. It'll say where he was born. And then it'll have, oh, it does. Okay, so here is an interesting thing. So it looks like this is a compilation. This guy, I'm not sure, this is unusual. So it doesn't have parents listed for them. So I wonder what, that's interesting. So, but it does say, so normally you'll see here, it has the parents' names listed, and it'll have the occupation of the father and where each of the parents was born. So yeah, so you can see, and if you get lost, you can always scroll back up and look at the column here. It'll tell you where, what each column is. So this one will have the occupation of the father, birthplace of the father, and birthplace of the mother. For some reason, this guy only has the father listed, so that's interesting. Okay, let's see. Oh, okay. Okay, so Leslie has a good tip. If you put in Berkshire, Massachusetts, it brought up results in Berkshire County and didn't include England. Like I said, you got to be really patient when you're using this one. So okay, whoops. Okay, so that's if you're searching. So this is how you would do it if you're searching for a specific thing. You want to pick a collection. So let's go back to all collections. So okay, so we're going to go back. Let's say we want to try to find something else. Let's start a new search. So let's see, what do we want to try now? Let's try, okay. Now we're going to try, we're going to click on newspapers because I'm going to show you that more in depth, but I have a few more slides to show you first. So we went over saving, as I said. There is no save record button or an email option, which is those of us who use databases, we're used to that on different newspaper databases or other genealogy databases. You have to do the thing as I said, go to full screen and either print or choose print to PDF or print to whatever file format you might have available. And as I said, the print option will only print, if you just click print from your browser's menu, you will only get the transcription. So that's one of the more quirky things about this database. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at some of the different collections that they have. So why we like to recommend MyHeritage is they do have a lot of the same collections as Ancestry.com, with the advantage of you can use it from home. And as you just saw here, they have birth, death, and marriage records. They have census records. They have city directories. They have immigration and naturalization records, Social Security applications and claims, and also yearbooks. So if you're looking for some of these things and you can't get into the library to use Ancestry.com, you'll be able to get them in here. All right, so now we're going to look at newspapers. It is the largest collection that they have, and it includes Massachusetts newspapers that were actually scanned from the BPL's microfilm collection. This is why we like to promote this one. They do have newspapers from other states and other countries, but they have a ton from Massachusetts that came from us, which includes Boston daily newspapers, neighborhood newspapers, and other newspapers from Massachusetts. So that's why, despite the fact that the search function isn't the best, that's why we still like to use it, because it has a lot of great stuff in there. You just kind of have to be patient and work with it. All right, so now we are going to dive into newspapers. So I'm going to try another one of my relatives. So let's just say I just want to search for Hosea Wheeler. And again, we want to do exact search. It's very important. Otherwise, you're going to get all the Hoseas and all the Wheelers. Okay, and now there's 310. So let's say I wanted to narrow this down, but I didn't feel like trying to figure out how they were going to type it in there. So if I just want Massachusetts, which is the collection that was scanned from us, we'll click on Massachusetts. And then down here, again, now we're only down to 69 results. So we can just look through this because that's a more manageable number. Or if you wanted to limit it further, say if you know what newspaper you're looking at, you can click on publication title, and then just pick a newspaper from the list that comes up. If you're not sure what newspaper you want, but you have a good idea of what place it was published in, pick one of these. Boston is going to be the big one for a lot of things, but they have other areas. Or if you know what year you're looking for, you can click on year. Let's say, so this particular ancestor of mine served in the Civil War, so I want to click on a year that was during the Civil War and see what they might have. So here they have, the results came up for the Boston Transcript and the Boston Post. So let's do the Boston Transcript. The Boston Transcript was, for those of you who are in the Boston area, was basically considered a paper of record before the Globe was published, and even after the Globe started publication, it was the newspaper to look at. So again, they have your result highlighted here. So this right here is a list of invalid soldiers from New Orleans. So this was a list of sick and injured soldiers that were on their way back from New Orleans. So I can show you right here. I can just tell you this is my 3 times great-grandfather. This is the company he was in, and he actually did pass away not long after this was published. This was, whoops. So this was that was published August 18th. So he actually passed away a few weeks after this. He had an illness. So there we go. So there's one of my ancestors, and that's in a newspaper. So again, if we want it, so then we know how to save, but I'm going to show you that again. You go to full screen, go over here, and then you click on this printer icon. You can see a little better here, save as PDF, and you're good to go. Your other option, if you're able to figure it out on your computer, if you really just want that small segment, you can try to do a screenshot or a snip. It's a little tricky, so you can always just save the whole document, or you can try to do that if you really want to. Okay, so let's do exit full screen. And back to search results. There we go. So that is that one. All right, so let's say I wanted to go back and see if there was anyone else by that name that did anything interesting. So I'm gonna keep going back here. So this will be the other thing to keep in mind. You have to uncheck that because otherwise it'll keep it as you page back through the collections and it will be a little restrictive. So we unchecked that. I'm gonna click back on Massachusetts newspapers. So it's down here. Let's go by place. So let's see what Springfield has. All right, so this is 1877. So let's see what this is. So this is the Springfield Daily Union from 1877. I don't know if I'm related to this person, but it looks interesting. Okay, Hatfield. No, I don't think this was one of my relatives. There were a lot of Wheelers floating around, and a lot of them were named Hosea. Okay, so this is looks like this is an African-American family. So this was a trial for murder in Northampton. So that is interesting. So you can find all sorts of things like this in there. A lot of folks will sometimes just look for obituaries, but you can see you can get stuff like this. You can get court cases and many other things in there. All right, so those are newspapers. So we did already take a little bit of a look at birth, marriage, and death records. So just a quick overview for those of you who are less familiar. These are records that are drawn from government records and church records that document a birth or a baptism, marriage or death records. And this can also include, in this database, burial records, civil registrations, which is what some countries in Europe would use. That's the terminology they would use rather than birth record, death record. It's a registration of an event by a civil authority. So that's their records. There are actually some divorce records in there, and they do have some obituaries that they file in there that come from the newspaper collection. So we did already take a look at that. This is a different one of my, this is my 2 times great-grandfather down here, William Francis Herman and Nellie Irene Farrell. That's their marriage record. And you can see this again from Rhode Island. So you can color photo handwritten. It's beautiful. So let's show, whoops, that's not what I meant. Okay. There we go. Okie doke. Okay, so let's, all right, so we did already take a look at that, so I won't make you do that again. So moving on. So the census, this is a good building block record for folks to use, especially if they're just starting out. Not only do they have the United States Census, but they also have census records from France, the UK, so that is England, Wales, and Scotland, and Northern Ireland. They also have Ireland, Canada, various countries in Scandinavia. This also includes Australian electoral rolls, which I thought was really interesting, and lists of residents and just various mishmash of different things. Okay, so let's see. We're gonna go back there. All right, so let's go back here. So if we want to do the census, so click on that. So if you wanted to poke around here, you could do that. But for now, we're going to stick with US. So let's try. So you can always click on more. You can get a full listing. So this is okay. So this is, so let's do 1930. Let's say I want to look for my grandfather. We're going to do William Herman. And this time is residence. And it has to be a match. So we're going to do Cranston, and hopefully this works. Okay, exact search. And there we go. So the reason two are showing up is his father was also William Herman. Like I said, there's a lot of William Hermans in my family. So we're going to click on this. We're going to scroll down here. One thing I do like about this, and as opposed to Ancestry.com, it just puts the image up there. A lot of the other genealogy databases will make you click on a thumbnail to open it in a new window, but this one just puts it right in there. So let's zoom in. So this one they don't always highlight. You might have to hunt for it. There we go. All right, so here we have, so this is my great-great-grandfather, my great-great-grandmother, this is my grandfather, and then my great-aunt and my great-uncles here. And so this is the US Census for Cranston, Rhode Island from 1930. So you can see here, it's, this handwriting is actually not that bad. I'll give you the things like their genders and their race as they understood it at the time, how old they were, where they were born, and where their parents were born. So here it'll say for my great-grandmother, it says that her mother, that her father was born in England. He was actually Irish, but at the time, they considered it part of England. It was a bit of a sticking point for a lot of Irish immigrants. I don't imagine my great-grandmother was too happy about that. Okay, keep going, it'll have information about whether or not they owned their own home, what they did for their job, and various other things. So that is how you get the census. I always recommend starting with the census because it has a lot of really basic information that you can then use to find other information. And go back to search results. Okay. All right, so this is a broader category. They have a lot of things kind of thrown in here, and that's directories, guides, and references. So in addition to the usual thing like phone books, city directories that a lot of folks use, they also have genealogy magazines, local guides, so things basically kind of almanac-like things that'll tell you where different offices were, what parks there were, or what fun things there are for tourists, maybe some restaurant stuff like that. And also some reference books, which to them also includes published family genealogies, local histories, and it's called town records, and again, just a whole variety of things. But we're going to look at the city directories here. All right, so let's go down here. So we're going to get our big category, so directories. Okay. Right, so now I want to look for just the heck of it. So before my family was Herman, it was Vogelgesang. Not sure why they went to Herman from that, but that's what they did. And now I'm just gonna do actually they lived in, okay, so initially they lived in Connecticut and New Britain. So we're gonna do exact search, and again, see, got to be real patient with this one. So let's just, for the heck of it, see what happens with that. There we go. All right, so there we go. So let's just say, so there's a lot of Vogelgesangs around. So unfortunately, it will, in the big page here, it won't let you refine it by location of publication, but if we click on directories here, and over here, you can narrow it down more by location. So let's see. Well, they got a lot in here. So they got Fort Wayne, Indiana. So if you're looking for that, you're all set. But we're just going to go back up here. Just do US city directories. And then first name. So let's say, okay, let's do Charles because that's what we changed his name to. There we go. Okay, so another thing to keep in mind, if you have an ancestor who came from another country and they might have changed their name, you might need to search for their name that they had when they were in the country they were born, and also what they had when they got here. So this is my 5 times great-grandfather. The cool thing about this one, you're not going to see this on all of them, but in this particular collection, if they see a big run of the same name, they'll give you a listing of all the different ones. And it'll show up here, and this one does highlight it, so you can see this is my ancestor. He was a tailor. So this is New Britain, Connecticut. You can see here he's going by Charles. His name before he came to America was Carl Vogelgesang. He changed his first name to Charles. His son changed his name to Charles Herman. Again, not sure why. All right, but if we go back up here, and then this is actually really useful. This actually tells you about when he died, because right below this 1894, you have Louisa Vogelgesang, who was his wife. It says he was a widow of Charles, and you can see it's the same address. So now we actually, if you didn't know before, now you actually have a really good idea of when he died. And then if you wanted to look at a different year, you just click on it, and then it'll pop you over to the next one. So this is a different year, and then there he is again. Taylor, 275 Maple, and these two are his brothers. One of them worked at Stanley, the other one was a barber. So you can see they're at the same house there. I could just tell you those were his brothers. Okay, so this is just a new feature that I just discovered today when I was going over my slides. So I just think that is really cool. Okay, so Rosemary's asking, is there a way to search an address? So keyword search, you can try. So let's just say, okay, so let's say, yeah, there isn't really a place in here to search for a street address. You can only do city, county, state, and country. You could try doing a keyword search. So let's just say, put in one of my grandfather's previous addresses. So let's see if that comes. Yeah, that, again, you can try, but don't hold your breath on that one. That's one of the downsides of this one. You can do a better keyword search in Ancestry. That reminds me of something I forgot to show you with the newspaper. So if you're looking in a newspaper, but you're not looking for a person, keyword search is kind of wonky. So let's just do Boston, and let's say I wanted information about the combat zone. Those of you who are old enough will remember what that was. Okay. Then we get 168 million results there, so which is a little much to go through. So what I recommend you do is you pretend that you're looking for a person and try to boil it down to as few keywords as you possibly can and put them in there. And now we only have 12,000 results. So the downside of that, you will get results that are people that do actually have similar names to that, but you can kind of work around that. And there we go. So that's what I would recommend. That works for newspapers. However, for other directories, there really isn't a good way to do a keyword search, unfortunately. That's one of the downsides. Okay, so, oh yeah, we're doing good. Time. They also do, much like Ancestry, they have family trees. However, unlike Ancestry, these are pulled from a bunch of different resources. One thing to keep in mind, and this is similar to Ancestry if you're familiar with that, the ones contributed by MyHeritage users, you can only look at them if they've been made public. It's not going to automatically be accessible. And the one thing to keep in mind when you're looking at family trees is take it with a grain of salt, because they may not have 100% correct information here. Okay, so we're going to take a look at those now. So we're going to start over. Okay, so let's click on that. So again, on the right-hand side here, you can see, so they have their own thing. They also pull from Family Search, Genie World Family Tree, and these are just a bunch of different sites that have granted them access to their family tree. So if we keep going down here, there's stuff from England, there's stuff from Argentina. There's a bunch of different stuff. Oh, what do the stars mean? I'm not sure what stars you're talking about, Barbara. Go back. If you could just clarify for me what stars you're talking about there, and we'll see if we can figure that out. So these are all just the different family trees that you can pull from. So again, we're going to go with Charles Herman. All right, so this one, so we're going to get on the search results, there are stars. Oh, okay. You know, I'm not sure. I think it most likely has something to do with relevance. So basically how close it was to the search that you typed in. If it's really closely matches, it's going to do 5 stars. If it's not that relevant, it'll be 1 star. I believe that. So Rosemary's asking, if you're viewing a family tree, can the owner of that tree be able to see who viewed their tree? I don't know. If it works like Ancestry, if it's a public tree, you know, I'm honestly not sure. If you send us an email to ask@bpl.org, I can look into that, but I think it might depend on the settings of the owner of the tree. I'm not 100% sure on that. Okay, so this will show you all the different family trees that have someone with this name. So let's just do MyHeritage members. So these are people who have their own individual subscriptions to the website and have built up their own family trees. So let's say if we click on that one. Oh no, this is, oh, these are members. I'm sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. So those are actual members. So MyHeritage family sites. There we go. So you click on that. And again, not everything's going to be accessible. There isn't real either accessibility. Yeah, there isn't really a way. It's a little tricky. There isn't really an easy way to contact them and ask for access. There might be a way to figure that out, but I don't know what it is, again, because they pull from so many different resources. It can be a little tricky. Your best bet would be, if you find a family tree on here, is go to the original website. So like go to Family Search or Genie or whatever it was, and then try to get to contact them that way. Because this is basically an aggregator, because they're pulling things from different resources. So another big category they have is immigration and travel. So whoops. So that's mostly going to be passenger lists, immigration records, various indexes, and they'll have some citizenship, passport, and naturalization records. So let's go back. So we're going to take a look at that. Did they reorganize it? They keep reorganizing what order the list is in, so it can be a little tricky. That's history. Where did you go? There we are. All righty. So again, on the right-hand side here, it'll show you a list of all the different ones that they have. But let's say I want to for a different one of my ancestors that I know is required. I know he was born in Ireland. I'm not sure, just for the heck of it, just to see what they have. Oh, 8 records. So again, I don't know if I'm related to any of these folks. Let's pretend I am, and we're gonna open up this one here. So this is from 1848, and once again, you'll get a transcription up at the top. I always recommend looking at the image because sometimes it'll have more information. This one doesn't, because it's an early passenger listing. They don't have a heck of a lot of information. It'll usually just have the name, the age, their occupation, where they're from, and where they were going. That's about all they're going to have here. But this will give you a good idea. If they were traveling with family, they'll probably be listed together because they would have been together when they boarded the ship, which is when they took this down. All right. All right. And we're gonna kind of skim over this one. So they do have Social Security applications and claims. Again, this is just going to be for the United States, and it is kind of a limited time period. They have a few random business registers from Colorado and Australia, which is interesting. Okay, public records. So back in here. I wish they had this in alphabetical order. It'd be much easier to find things. Look records. There we go. So again, so let's say we want to do that one. And let's again, just for the heck of it, let's try Charles Herman again. Okay, so I'm probably not related to any of these folks, but let's just see. So basically you'd click on this, and the other thing to keep in mind is sometimes the person you're searching for is not the subject of the record. And as you see in this case, it's actually their daughter because they're listed as a parent. So that can be a good way to figure out when or where someone was born. If you know parent's name, this can be a way to figure out how many children did they have. And this is different than the Social Security Death Index that has death records. This is basically, a lot of this is when they registered for Social Security. So you'll see a lot of stuff here from the 40s and 50s when people were still doing that. And we already kind of saw the yearbooks. So they do have yearbooks. It's primarily from the United States, but they do have randomly some alumni lists and also some things from one particular university in Belgium, which is fascinating to me. We're just going to take a quick look at that since we already did see a yearbook. Now let's go back here, schools and universities. So again, let's say, actually, let's do Robert. So this is my great uncle. And again, we're going to do that. Cranston. And there we go. So there we go. So we're going to click on that one, as this is one that has pictures. And so again, you'll see the transcription. Okay, so this was not originally in color. So like it says here that they used one of their software things that they have is colorizing black and white images. Right here, you can see here, and this is my great uncle, Robert James. So yeah, this is him. And this is his college, this is his high school yearbook from the class of 1946. Pretty sure, so that's a little off. I'm pretty sure he had red hair like my grandfather, but I'm not 100% on that. So this is a really cool resource. I enjoyed stumbling on the ones that I found of my grandparent, of my grandfather and his siblings. Photos, it's so they do have some photos, but it's not terribly robust. So we're just going to take a quick look at that. It really, most of it comes from a website called deadfred.com, which you can just go to yourself and take a look. They don't have a heck of a lot in there. I think it's one of the ones that they're working on. Most of these will come from family trees that were submitted. Books and publications. So again, there's again, this one's not terribly robust. There's indexes of authors. This document right here is from membership to a particular societies. So I think a lineage society is what this one was. Bibliographies, things like that. And they also do, again, not particularly robust section. This might be something they're working on. They have government land court and wills, but it's not a lot from the US. And from the US, it's only from Alabama, Indiana, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Mississippi. And they have a few countries here. All right, and these were, again, the less robust categories. The collections that we find ourselves using here the most are the birth, death, and marriage records and the newspapers. The newspaper section is the one that we use the most, but they do have some other random things. So they'll have histories, so local histories, family histories. They do have some maps in there. They are mostly from Europe. They do have some military records, but for right now, it's just records from France that cover from 1865 to 1932. All right, so we have time for questions. It looks like we already have a few that came in. Let's see if I'm going to go back. Okay, so Marie's asking, what is the difference between MyHeritage and Family Search? So those are two different websites. MyHeritage is they also do DNA testing, and they have a bunch of different apps and things that you can use to enhance the documents that you have, such as the colorization thing that I mentioned. And they also have some stuff that where you can animate photographs. They use a lot of AI tools. Family Search is the website that's run by the Latter-day Saints. So they gather records from various resources and put that on their website. They are currently, they might be actually be done with this. They have an effort to digitize everything that they have, so everything will be available there. Okay, so Paula's asking, does MyHeritage have a translation button for when I find a foreign language, for when I find foreign language information? As far as I've been able to determine, they do not. There will be some user-submitted translations in there that'll show up in the transcriptions, but I don't believe they have any kind of formal translation button. Okay, so Marie's asking, do you have records from Chinese immigration from Canton, China to San Francisco or Georgia in 1870? Excuse me. So I don't think MyHeritage has that, but let's take a look. So I think we also had someone looking for Spain and Italy. So we go back to the beginning here. You can do a browse by location. So let's see, for Asia, let's click on China. Let's see what they have. So they don't have a ton of stuff. That's another one of the downsides. Their collection really works mostly for North America and parts of certain countries in Europe. They don't have a ton of stuff outside of that. So they don't have much for China, but lucky for you, we do have a different database that does have things that cover China. So if we go back here, learning and research, genealogy, let's see if it's not to do, where are you? Oh, we don't have it in there. Okay, I need to ask them to add that. So it's called My China Roots. So I guess we have to go the long way to get to that one. So you go here to online resources, then subject, biography and genealogy. And it's the second one listed. This one is relatively new that we have. So again, you click on that, type in your library card number and your PIN. They have a ton of resources. We actually had a guest speaker on this. So there is a recording of that in our YouTube playlist. So definitely recommend checking that out so you can get a good idea of what they have in here. So that's what I would recommend if you're researching Chinese ancestors. So as far as Spain and Italy goes, let's go back. I'm not sure how much they have. So if you scroll down to the bottom to get the globe, click on Europe. So Spain. So they do have some stuff for Spain here. So, okay, so this is a good point. So they have another affiliated website called oldnews.com that has more newspapers. That's a separate tier of subscription. The BPL does not subscribe to that. So you would not be able to access anything from Old News from us. But you see, they do have some things for Spain over here that you can see listed on the right. And for Italy, let's see. And go back to Europe. Okay, yeah, so they do have some stuff for Italy. So yeah, so again, it's mostly going to be North America, like basically US, Canada, and Europe is what their strongest collection is, unfortunately. They don't have really a ton of stuff for other places. Okay, so Paula's asking, when MyHeritage prompts, click here to view record on family search, do I continue with Google or Facebook or Apple or church account? Well, if you have an account with family search, I would recommend logging in with them. It really, whatever you've used, if you do have an account with them, just use whatever account that you've set up. Again, family search is a free and open website. You don't have to have a library card with us to access it. You do need to register for at least a guest account to access some of their records. But if you do have an account with them, just use whatever account you had. Okay, so Sandy's asking, if I use MyHeritage through BPL, do I have access to all the records that will be available through an individual subscription to MyHeritage? No, you don't. But the main difference is, and this is, again, this is true with Ancestry, it limits your interaction with family trees. You can't save records in your own section like you could with an individual subscription. You could just download them or print them. You wouldn't be able to save them within the site. That's the main difference. The records are basically the same aside from restrictions with some of the family trees. Gail's asking, can you get a Boston Public Library card if you don't live in Boston? Yes, if you live in Massachusetts. So anyone who lives in Massachusetts can get a library card with us. So if you can't get to a BPL location, what you can do, just go to bpl.org and click on services. Then over here on the left, click on e-cards. So you just click on the button here on the left, and then the form is pretty self-explanatory. It'll ask for things like your name, your address, pretty basic stuff. So then you can get an e-card, and then you will be able to access our online resources. So Harold's asking, what sites do you recommend for researching Jewish genealogy? So that's So depending on what you're looking for, there's different places you would want to go. So there's, you really would kind of need to still know what country they were from in order to determine that. So if you know what country they're from, just search for the country. Yes, jewishgen.org, I was getting to that. Thank you, Rosemary, that's great. So yes, there's a Jewish Genealogical Society of Greater Boston. I would get in touch with them. The only thing we have specific for researching Jewish ancestors would be the Jewish Advocate. We do have, that's one of our newspaper databases that we have, which I believe, so we go to the newspaper section and we have that covering from 1905 to 1990. So that's the only one that we have specifically for that sort of thing. But if, again, I would, for our resources, I would focus on whatever country it was that they were from, and then try the Jewish Genealogical Society of Greater Boston. See. So Paul is asking, is there a reason why there may be multiple years recorded for a person's immigration? For instance, immigration 1889, 1890, and then residence 1900. So it was not uncommon around that time for people to go back and forth. Sometimes what would happen is usually like the father of the family would come first, make some money, and then he would go back to get his family, or people would just move back and forth. So that's actually pretty common. Usually if someone is getting citizenship, they would generally just use the first one, I believe, but that can be different. But yeah, it was not uncommon for folks to travel back and forth, particularly if they left their family behind. They might make different trips to go get their family once they were ready. Yes, so Harold's making a good point. The problem is the boundaries changed all the time in Europe. Yes, that is very true. So what I would recommend for that is try to figure out what country it was when your ancestor was born there. So for instance, one of my great grandfathers, where he was born, it is now Italy, but at the time he was born, it was the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So that's something I have to keep in mind when I'm researching him. I have to put in Austria, not Italy. By the fact that he spoke Italian and had an Italian name, he was Austrian. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Particularly like when all these empires broke up, there's all these new countries. So Catherine's asking, where would I find citizenship certificates? So they do have some of those in ancestry.com. They don't have a complete range. That would really depend on where and when the person was naturalized. So there's a, let's go, see, this is why. So I'm going to show you our genealogy research guide because I have it written down in there. Go back. Okay. Migration, oh, naturalization, okay. Okay, so if they're naturalized before 1906, those records would be held by whatever local court or federal court they got naturalized in. As at that time, any court could do naturalizations. After that date in 1906, they're going to be held by the National Archives because by then they could only do federal courts. That's where you had to have it done. It also depends on whether or not they were a woman, because if this event, if it was between 1855 and 1922, if she was married and her husband became a citizen, she just automatically was a citizen because of her husband. She's not going to have her own separate one. So this, it really does depend on when and where. Like I said, Ancestry.com does have some. So definitely look into that and see where it is. Okay, let's see. Okay, so Marie's asking, I have found my second great grandparents living as freed slaves in Augusta, Georgia in 1870, but no record of either of them before 1870. How will I know their actual heritage? So that is a really common problem. That is, a lot of people face that because before that, enslaved people, their names weren't recorded in census records. So what I would recommend is go to American Ancestors. So they have a project that they're doing right now called 10 Million Names. And the goal of this project is to document all enslaved people in America and try to trace their ancestry and descendants. So they have a, and this is one of the free sections of their website. So you don't have to have a paid account with them to use this. So definitely just check out 10 Million Names and see what you can find in there. It's an ongoing thing. You can also reach out to them to see how you can do it. Let's just take a look and see. So you can do a search there, and this will tell you the different collections that they have. And again, it's an ongoing thing. So if you don't find anything in here to begin with, try again another time. There's also, they have free guides that you can look at. So I would look there. So, okay. Okay. So Paul is asking, is there a way to search foreign newspapers? So I think they have some foreign newspapers in there. So like if we see, they might. So that's, again, that's a little trickier. A lot of newspapers like that haven't been digitized. We do have a lot of foreign language newspapers on microfilm here at the BPL. Let's click over here because I'm not sure. So let's see. So I know they have, yeah, they do have some from Canada, French Canadian. So they, again, they don't have a heck of a lot here for that. And their collection does primarily focus on the US and Canada. I don't see that they have any for too much. Yeah, so okay, so they do have some from the Netherlands. So I would say if there's a specific country that you're looking for, just shoot us an email and then we can see what we might have. But it looks like MyHeritage in particular doesn't have a heck of a lot for outside the US, unfortunately. All right, looks like, okay, I think that's everything. Oh, thank you, Michael. So Michael is saying that he was able to find a record that he'd been looking for tonight. That's great. I'm glad you were able to find that. Okay, so, all right, so we're gonna wrap it up now. So once again, this program was recorded. It will be eventually uploaded to our YouTube playlist. I will also be sending the link to everyone who has registered once it is ready. Everyone will also be getting a follow-up email from me tomorrow that will include a link to the handout as well as the slides and the chat transcript, so you don't need to worry if you missed anything. There will also be information in there about our upcoming programs, as well as a link to our YouTube playlist. So if you want to check out previous recordings, particularly if you're, like I said, someone was looking for a Chinese ancestry, check out the recording from My China Roots and see if that's helpful to you at all. All right, so next week we actually have a program from a professional genealogist. We have a guest speaker, Pamela Guy Holland, who will be talking about using social history in your genealogy research. It's a fascinating subject, and really looking forward to that. I hope you're able to join us. So I hope everyone has a good night and a good weekend, and I hope to see you soon.